Hello there, friends. Welcome to this creative checkup episode. Well, not really episode. I go live here. It's kind of like the same thing I do with my podcast, but we are here talking about transposition, talking about Taylor Swift, talking about AI. Okay, how do those things connect? How does what musicians do connects with what Taylor Swift and Beyonce are doing with their mega tours and how it connects with AI? I know that title may not make a lot of sense, but I will try to make it all make sense for you. First of all, my name is Alan C. Paul. I'm the host and founder of God and Gigs, and this is where we do our monthly, bi-weekly. I do this about once or twice a month. We do this all the time in our coaching program, but I try to do it to help our creatives here at Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe and then click the notifications because we're putting our podcast episodes as well as these live trainings to help you become a completely confident creative. These books you see behind me are a couple of books that I've written. So welcome to the tribe. Welcome to the G&G family. So let's first talk about the issue that I've been seeing pop up over and over again. If you guys see me looking up and back and forth, it's because we're on two different cameras right now. I'm on the Instagram as well. Welcome, Instagram, if you guys are watching here. So, first of all, if you have, first of all, let's talk to our musician. If you're one of our fellow musicians, make sure you put it in the chat so I can see you guys. Let's go ahead and get the chat moving here just to make sure I can see everyone. Let's see here. Where are we? Where are we? I always get lost when I'm these different. There it is. There's the chat. And chat overlay. So, right. Make sure I can see. Here we go. All right. So if you're joining us on Instagram, make sure you chat. Let me know what you're watching and let me know what you think about this first issue. This first issue we're talking about has to do with musicians. Now, I am a musician, as some of you that are watching know. And the discussion I have seen pop up over and over again over the last few weeks has been about transposing. Now, if you're not a musician and you don't know what the heck we're talking about, transposing is simply the art of changing keys on an instrument or playing or performing. However, good to see you, Gerald. Great to see you, brother. However, on keyboard specifically, and I'm a keyboardist, I'm a musician on the keyboard, I'm a pianist. Specifically on the piano, on the keyboards, electric keyboard, you're able to electronically change keys just by hitting a button. And so for guitar players, this also comes to, using a capo, they can move that. But on keyboards, apparently it's hit a nerve. And I'll tell you why I feel this has happened, even though I tried not to pay too much attention to what's been going on in the blogosphere and the comment sphere, but I know the general gist of it. And this is where it comes down to the first part of this conversation is musicians and creators who feel like people are taking the easy route around learning their instrument, the easy route learning all 12 keys, the easy route of actually knowing what you're playing and just using a technical or technological cheat code. So yes, it is true. If you are a keyboardist or a musician and you are using a specific way to kind of get around learning all your keys, let's first talk about why this is such a big issue for people like me who learned all the keys. It can feel oftentimes like people are giving less respect for the craft when they're not doing all the work that it usually takes to learn something fully. So in the case of music, obviously 12 keys that's what there is, minor, major, that's what it is, all the scales. And it is a tough thing for any instrumentalist, vocalist even though I know vocals is not necessarily an instrument where you have to worry about keys, in terms of facility, but just your ear, right? It's tough to learn to play in all 12 keys. That is not something that's easy, but it's part of what makes musicians is being able to do this. And so I wonder in the chat if you have felt or struggled with the idea of other musicians, other creatives getting over on you doing less than you're doing and getting more results, doing less work and still being accepted, still getting gigs, still being able to minister in church. If that bothers you, um, then I would love to see, like, tell me why it bothers you. And again, I'm spreading this out beyond just keyboard players to anyone in the creative space where you think people kind of use a cheat code. That's the word I'm using. Transposition, using, I don't know, AI, using other ways, gaming the system. Are there other ways that people are gaming the system or getting around the system or using technology to avoid doing the work that the rest of us creatives have been put a yes, I feel this way because X. Why do you feel frustrated? Why do you feel some kind of way when you hear that people are either transposing or using some other form of, again, I'll call it gaming the system or cheat code, something that allows you to do work that you're really not, and here's where it's going to get harsh, qualified to do. Um, I've seen this in the coaching world. I've seen this where people are saying, well, you're a business coach, but you've never actually built a business. You're doing a course on something that you learned on Chat GPT and you just put it out and you really weren't, you were just regurgitating things that you really didn't know. Is that something that bothers you? If it bothers you, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you've ever been struggling with the idea when people don't do the work and still get some of the benefits. Now, let me tell you the good part of this. The good part, and I'm not pointing the finger at anybody, musicians, if you transpose, I'm not pointing the finger at you. But here's what I would make very clear. Those of us, those people who are doing the hard work, the being willing to be bad, being willing to not be great at something for a while until you get good. Even those of you who, had to like find a technological way to kind of learn something first. By the way, somebody let me know if you can hear me okay in Instagram. I just realized the mic's far away. Hope you guys can hear me okay. But if that is a struggle for you right now to learn something, that's a good thing. And I think one of the things we've done in society is that we have dumbed down, or we are trying to avoid struggle at all costs. We see struggling as a negative. If you only have 5 followers, you feel like you're not doing anything. If you're not performing at the highest level, we have created this level of expectation that we want success right away, including musically, including creatively. And I think transposition argument is part of that, which is you're asking me to do something that I can't do yet. And this is the fastest way for me to do it. But I'm not quite there yet. And no one's giving me grace at this time to learn it. So I got to just use this particular way to figure it out. Now, if that's true, you could be right. It could be true that at, at this point, you're not good enough to keep something going while you're learning it. It's hard to perform in the same place that you're actually learning at the same time. If I'm right, let me know in the comments. Let me know by saying yes in the comments. If you've struggled to learn while doing in a place where you're being judged while you're doing, because that's what's happening. You're learning in real time, you're practicing in real time, you're working alongside people in real time, especially as musicians, and you're being held accountable in real time. So if you enter into this business and this industry early, not necessarily early, but before you got all, your facility together, your keys together, you are asking kind of basically to be judged in a sense. And why I'm saying this in terms of what this has to do with some of these other areas, which you'll see in a second, is because there is a level where you have to be okay being bad. You have to be okay being not that good and being noticed for not being that good. I remember a story that someone gave me, not a story, but a backhanded kind of compliment. One of the musicians in my circle gave me when I saw him years later. I used to play at a gospel group back when I first got here to Miami, and I saw him 20, 15 years later, whatever. It's been recently, and he's gone on to be an amazing musician as well. And he said he saw me and he said, "Hey man, great to see you. You know, sound amazing, man. You're sounding so much better than you used to." I was like, "Ooh, ouch. Okay, thank you." Because yes, he was right. He was 100% right. I do sound way better. Thank God, I've gotten better than I was back then. But I also, felt kind of like he was pointing a finger at how bad I was back then, and that hurt. It kind of was a little bit of a notch down in my pride, but that was the truth. The truth was I wasn't that good. Thank God they gave me grace to kind of get myself together and perform to the best of my ability in that choir back then. But I wasn't the best choice. I wasn't the best. I was new to gospel and I was really rough and probably putting way too much stuff in there that didn't belong. And, that's really, again, the struggle that you're going to have at the beginning stages of your creative career. And maybe even not just the beginning, but afterward. So if this is resonating with you, if this is something that you've had to deal with, if you've had to fight the urge to quit because you felt you were being judged, or if you felt the urge to cheat. And again, I'm being careful because I don't want to say transposing is cheating, but it's kind of like cheating. Good to see you, Manuel. Great to see you over here on Instagram. We're talking about transposing. We're talking about the different things where people get frustrated in creative life and music, especially when people seem to be taking the easy route. Which is going to take me right into in a crazy left turn kind of thing to Taylor Swift and Beyonce and these mega tours. And we're going to talk a little bit about what it seems to be the easy way that they are charging incredible amounts of money for these tours and for these concerts. And people are shelling out thousands of dollars to see these artists. And again, maybe you feel if you've been to the Beyonce concert or you've been to the Taylor Swift Eras concert, number one, good for you for taking care of your money, okay? Because like that's number one. Like those are not cheap. But what I really thought about would be applicable to us is again ourselves honestly. What does that say? What does the fact that Beyonce and Taylor can go out here and charge thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars for a ticket price? What does that say about the nature of music? What does it say about the nature of the audience? What does it say about us as creators individually? Are you in a place where you also have thought about what do I offer to my audience? Would they ever would charge that much? Could I ever have somebody want to see me that they would be willing to shell out that much money? And again, kind of like a pivot, but also a through line to the transposing question I asked first. Does it bother you when other creatives and artists like a Beyonce, like a Taylor Swift, it seems to be easy for them now? Now, I know you and I know that it wasn't easy, right? I know you and I know it wasn't easy. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, feel free to comment. I'll make sure to bring up your comment here. Let me know if you've ever been frustrated, bothered, annoyed by either, well, really anything that's frustrated and bothered you, but we're kind of using these as our pivot points or as our pillars, as you might say. Okay, so is it that they are charging this much? Is it that they feel like you feel like they've made it easy? It's easy for them. Thank you for joining me over here on Instagram. I'm talking about cheat codes, talking about things that make things easy or seem to make things easy, too easy for other people, and whether we should be joining them. So between transposition for musicians, Taylor Swift and Beyonce seem to be able to charge hundreds of dollars and people will pay it. Meanwhile, they won't pay $5 for your single. They won't pay $10 for your book. And I understand that we're not Beyonce, we're not Taylor Swift, but I'm asking, what does that say about the nature of your creative art? Are you selling yourself short? Is the question. Are we, as creatives, forgetting that if people are willing to shell out that much money, is it possible that we're just not seeing the value of our own creative gift? Have you sold yourself short? Have we sold ourselves short? Are we unwilling to go through the struggle period, the low part where there's only 5 people watching, 10, 20, 50, 100 people watching? Are we, like the Bible says, are we despising the small beginnings? Because we all know that even though it seems like Taylor Swift's been around forever and she's been big all her life, she was not, right? And we know this overnight success thing is really not overnight. We know that before there was Destiny's Child, there was, before there's Beyonce, there was Destiny's Child. Before Destiny's Child, there was this little group in Houston, right? So it can feel like these people have it easy. It can feel like they took the easy way and, that they have all the advantages. But I want to kind of put this in your heart and in your mind in this creative checkup as you're watching this either on replay or now live. You need to embrace the small struggle time in your creative life. You need to embrace that and not get so quick to try to skip a step. Try to skip over that period of time that you're not feeling like people are paying attention. If that kind of hits where I believe it hits, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you've ever been frustrated with the beginning stages and feel like people are cheating. And again, let's go to the third part. So we said transposing is kind of like a cheat code. It feels like Taylor Swift and Beyonce and other people have found a cheat code, a way to kind of go. And now let's talk about AI, where, yes, this is where it kind of hits home for many of us creatives, because it feels like a lot of creatives may be using AI just to kind of like make stuff that they didn't make. We have people making songs now out of AI that they don't know anything about music, but they can do something in the style of Drake. They can create beats. They can do all these kind of things with AI. And again, seem like they game the system, get beyond things that don't really, require any effort on their part. And all of a sudden, they've got, I've gotten frustrated by this myself. Let me know if this frustrates you, if you've seen this. When you see a voiceover, somebody like The Voice talking, the Instagram or on some kind of post, you never see a person's face. You just see video. I've seen this on YouTube a lot. Just video, random video shots and a voice. And then you see they've got like 100,000 views. They never show their face. And yet some computer system has just analyzed what the words said and created a video, and now they got 100,000 views. That bothers me. I don't know if it bothers you, but it bothers me when I see people who can, like, I'm here, I'm live, I'm going live with you. Meanwhile, somebody can make a video and never ever show their face and just like hit a button and more people see it than somebody that's live showing up. That bothers me. Now, it's okay if it doesn't bother you, but if it bothers you, that's what I wanted to talk about and see what we can do to kind of be more honest about what it says about us. And I didn't mean to go this deep into this conversation right off the bat, but I think that's where we're at. Once again, if you're watching on YouTube, LinkedIn, or any of these other, make sure you share this with somebody. This might be a great conversation for them. If they've been frustrated, if you've been frustrated, this would be great for them and for you. So make sure you share it. We'll be on for a little bit longer. But here's the wraparound of all these things, whether it's about concerts, transposing, AI. It all comes down to this about you as an artist. What are you willing to go through? What are you willing to go through? Are you willing to deal with in the case of AI, are you willing to deal with the fact that somebody could create faster than you? And I have a podcast episode coming up right away with Mark Savant, who's going to help us with that. But even more than AI, he's an expert in AI, but even more than that, he really talks about the entrepreneurial journey. And so when you hear him talk about this in the next episode, I want to say it's 248. I think it's going to be 248. When you hear him talk about this, you're going to hear him talk about how we really just got to get comfortable with making the sale, making the ask, making the presentation, making the offer. And it's not always going to be easy. And usually it's going to be where, you make some mistakes along the way and people don't respond. How much of that are you willing to put up with? Musicians, are you willing to put up with not sounding great when you're trying to play in a new key? Are you willing to be, like the artist that still promotes their ticket prices and still promotes their art, even when you feel frustrated because people are going to spend $1,000 to see Beyonce, but they can't spend $10 to see your show or your concert or donate to your ministry? If those things are negated and you don't lean into them, you lose the power of being able to push through and learn the power of perseverance. The Bible says, let patience have her perfect work. Perfect, not meaning perfect, but perfect meaning complete. Perfect meaning complete. Let patience have her complete work. And then at the end of that passage, it says, so that you'll be lacking nothing. Lacking nothing. Patience, at the end of patience, is sufficiency. At the end of patience, my fellow creatives, is sufficiency. You're sufficient when you're patient. And here's the thing, again, that all these things pull together when I tried to pull on these three things. And by the way, I hope any of you guys that are watching are still kind of figuring out, okay, what does transposition and Taylor Swift and AI have to do in common? And I'm trying to make sure I answer that so that we can get into some question and answers and I can tell you some things that are going on. If you are using transposing, if you're using AI, or if you see people like Taylor feel like, oh my gosh, it's so easy for them. They got the cheat code, whatever the cheat code is, right? We just, when you're playing a game, good to see you, Greg. When you're playing a game and you hit that cheat code and you go 6 levels up, that's what I'm talking about. Why is it that certain things in the creative life feel like they skip ahead of the line? And what does that do to your psyche? Are you willing to stick with it, even when people outside of your space feel like they're skipping ahead of you and going ahead of you? Okay. Let me know in the comments if that is something that has bothered you. Let's talk about it. If it's transposing, if it's Taylor Swift and Beyonce selling out millions of seats, which again, they work super hard, by the way. I don't ever want to make it sound like I think it's more when people feel like that can never be me because I can't get to that level, and that's okay. But what level can you get to? Where are you right now where you don't have to use the cheat code? What is the cheat code for success, to be honest with you? It is perseverance. It is patience. It isn't easy. It isn't sexy, but it's what actually makes the perfect work perfected. You hear that all the time, right? Perfect practice makes perfect. This is what we're talking about, is what you do right now. How are you trying to keep yourself together? So, by the way, let me quickly stop and make sure that if you're watching now and you're wondering, hey, okay, how can I work this out and figure out this frustrating part while I'm waiting, while I'm practicing, while I'm trying to learn all 12 keys, while I'm working on my art, while I'm trying to figure out how to automate my, my creative stuff and send out emails and promote myself and all this kind of stuff, all the stuff that goes to the creative life. And you're frustrated because it feels like there's too much. It feels like there's too much going on. Not enough people to help me. If that's happening to you, just want to remind you, you may not know this. You may have seen, I haven't really promoted it at all outside of our group because I didn't want to throw a bunch of advertisements at everybody. But we do have a back to school sale going on God and Gigs 360 Go, which is our creative top level mastermind level type group where we connect the dots and help each other to overcome these challenges. And we have that going on right now at godandgigs.com/back to school. It's at 12 midnight Pacific time tonight. And it's the lowest rate that I'll ever give for this. We're going to raise rates in September because of the economy. And that is available right now at godandgigs.com/back to school. I don't know if I can put it here in the comments. Forgive me for reaching over the camera, but maybe I can get that in without messing up the Instagram. And that is available right now. If you go to godandgigs.com/back to school, you'll see that that deal is like crazy small investment. We're talking literally like around $20 a month to be a part of this. We just had one group today meet today. We did about some coaching. We have a challenge coming up to help everybody get on the ball with all the stuff they're trying to share. We've been helping musicians. We've been doing all this kind of stuff. So this is what's happening right now. I don't know if I can pin that comment. There we go. So if you're interested in checking that out, go ahead and go to godandgigs.com/back to school before midnight Pacific, because once that comes, it is over. And I would love to see some of you guys get some answers to these frustrations. So godandgigs.com/back to school. Now, I would love to talk a little bit more about this issue of cheat codes, about people who are transposing. And by the way, all of you who are watching on Instagram and Facebook, let me know if you have any ideas about this frustration. What has frustrated you? I know that not everybody, I'm not the only one. I'm sure I'm not the only one that has been like, man, why did they get away with that? Why did they get away with this? Why did they get away with that? Why are people able to, like, not learn their chords and be able to play and not learn to sing and get the gig, not really know what they're talking about and use chat GPT and write a whole essay and write a whole blog post and never have to actually know the stuff? There's got to be somebody in this group I know that is not being like cool with it, or else maybe you guys are all cool with it. But I want to know if anybody else has been frustrated by seeing other musicians, creators, artists that seem like they get ahead easily. And again, no hate on Taylor Swift or Beyonce. I just use their examples because they are selling out tours right now. And if you didn't really know how hard they work, you would think that, man, they got it easy. All they do is show up and people drop thousands of dollars for them to be seen. Okay. So let me know in the comments if that is something that has frustrated else that has frustrated you in the last few weeks or months when it comes to your creative career. One of the things that we talked about, by the way, I got to point this out. I've just not forgot about, but got to say a shout out to Ryan Whitney, who were just on the podcast celebrating their anniversary. They celebrated, I think, yesterday or 2 days ago. And yeah, shout out to Ryan Whitney, you guys. Happy anniversary. So excited for you. And thank you for being on the podcast. They are Alicia Keys vocal coaches, as well as they work with Queen Latifah. They have some BGVs for John Legend, for Ed Sheeran, Chris and Michelle, you name it. They've been on every stage you can name. And that podcast was 248, 240. No, that's next. I want to say they're 240. I got to make sure I get my numbers right. Forgive me. I always forget the numbers. I'm always slightly off. But make sure you subscribe to the God and Gig Show to make sure that you can check that out, because they gave a ton of wisdom on marriage, how to stay married, and working with these superstar artists, how they built a relationship with Alicia Keys, and how she has now accepted them and really kind of gets promoted them to being the vocal coaches for her entire team, and how they won that trust. See, here's a great example. Once again, let's talk about this. Ryan Whitney, if you're watching, thank you so much for your example here. You can go watch the podcast. I'm going to pull up that podcast in a second. Let me see if I can just make sure I got the actual link. Follow the podcast. There you go. And I forgot the link about back to school, but I'll show that later. But yeah, this is what they talk about. If back and watch that. This is going to encourage you. And if you haven't checked it out already, make sure you check out that podcast. God and get back to school. That's why I want you to check out that deal before. Yeah, we missed you too. Like I said, when we got there, I was like, oh, she should have been this conversation. But I know, between Ali for so long, and I don't feel like anything is happening. I know love, and it's, we as a Christian-based organization, we look to Jesus, and Jesus says about after old, we don't hear about Jesus again. All we know is that he was still in his mom's house. That's all we know. What we're finding, there are going to be some silent years, and I want to give. It's okay, frustrated with the silent years, but what's not okay through the silent years, those 18 years by John, and obviously became the Savior. If he gets kind of say, I'm the Son of God, and I'm sitting up rocks and bricks and stuff as a carpenter. So the fact that our Savior didn't get tired, be not weary in well doing. So in due season you shall reap. Right? Galatians. You have this. And I believe that your creative calling is worth sticking with it. It's worth when it feels like people are cutting the line, even when it feels like people are getting ahead of you. There to stick with this. And it's because you were given a gift. You were given a talent. You were given that nobody else on earth can replicate. Can do. Okay. Another artist can't replicate what you can do. Now, do you have to work on it? Yes. You have to, sharpened and honed. Yes. But that you cannot do what you have been called to do, even if there's some silent years before you get to that point. And so once again, I was wanting to kind of wrap this up as I give one more chance to jump into godandgigs.com/back-to-school, because this is what we do every week and every year and in God and Gigs 360 Gold. So we provide direct encouragement and strategies in a small virtually, and we give you your own app and